Hello.
Hello.
Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to have you here. My name is Kelly. I'm one of the customer champions here at InventoryLab, and I am so excited because I am joined today by extra super awesome, amazing guy, Elliott. Welcome, Elliott.
Well,
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about what your role is here at InventoryLab, and then we'll just do a little Q&A. It'll be
sure.
awesome.
So I am the software development manager on the US side. So we have two dev teams, and one here and one in China. And I run the team on the US side of the house. So I have everything from engineers, people writing the code that, ultimately becomes features, to database engineers, UX guys that, define and help build the user experience for our applications. So I have a pretty wide swath of people that I work with under me for all the stuff that we build for you guys.
And we're so grateful. We definitely couldn't do without you and your team. How long have you been here?
It's going to be 7 years in July.
Wow, coming up fast.
Yeah, it does.
How did you find out about InventoryLab? Like, what was the process to choosing to land here?
I don't remember how I found the job. Back then it was pretty rare to work from home. And so I couldn't tell you how I found a remote job. But I had long worked for large corporations, Microsoft and General Mills, and I wanted to be a part of something where I could have more impact. So I ended up, choosing InventoryLab ultimately because of the promise of building something and growing a company, not just slinging code for shareholders. So that was my motivator for coming here.
Yeah, that sounds great. And what were the early days like when you first started? I know things have changed a lot in 7 years.
Yeah, they were wild. When I joined, we were really just coming out of the startup phase where this explosive growth had been happening, and it was like flying by the seat of your pants, hanging on for dear life. Every day was a new fire drill. And, when I got here, we didn't really know what we had in front of us. I was the first engineer hired on the US side. And so, it was 12 hours of me just figuring stuff out until I could talk to, our team in China and get more information, because they were asleep.
Oh, yeah, the time zone difference.
Yeah. And so it was Darren and I were really the two. Darren's our director of technology, and he and I were just fighting to figure anything out that we could. We didn't have logging. We didn't have diagnostics.
Wow.
Yeah, our growth was outpacing our infrastructure pretty much every step of the way. And so a lot of it was just trying to get like our feet planted and not be fighting fire drills every day. And that took a long time. It took us, way over a year just to feel like we were, not just playing catch up every day.
Yeah. Wow. So things are better now, I would hope.
Yeah, things have changed a lot for us. That's been our biggest challenge, was just trying to grow while playing catch up and get from like a point that we were always reactive to proactive and doing thoughtful and plan development. And when I started, we didn't have business analysts, we didn't have project managers, we didn't have anyone shepherding all the chaos. It's just Darren and I in the trenches, every day doing whatever we could. And some days it was, just trying to keep the lights on. Other days we would have time to work on new features that maybe people wanted, maybe they didn't. We just kind of threw them out there.
We didn't have at a wall.
Yeah, it wasn't this like thoughtful process of curating feedback from our users and prioritization and all of that stuff. It was just like, Amazon is providing new data all of a sudden. Let's build a report. And that's so we've come a long way in many regards.
Wow. Yeah, no kidding. Well, so on that note, then, can you share with us a little bit more about how the developer team, like rank which fixes to start on or which features to integrate?
Yeah. So the first thing that's really important to keep in mind is that bug fixing is just a small portion of what we do, right? Ultimately, we are either doing, bug work, or ideally we're not doing bug work because we don't have bugs and we're building features. And so all of our bug fixes get prioritized alongside our feature work, right? So when we're building new things like the restock report or, the send to Amazon stuff. We have to prioritize it against that. So when a bug comes in, really the first thing that we have to do is figure out how big it is, right? And so that's where, as you know, our customer champions, really kick a lot of ass, and they do all that upfront nitty gritty work for us to figure out how many people is this affecting, what's the severity of the impact, right? I mean, if it's only two users, but we've completely hosed 2 users with this bug, that's still really important to us. So that's the first step. And, a big piece of that for us is, can we reproduce it, right? Because if we don't do any coding in our production environment with like production user accounts, right? So we have our test accounts, we have our test environments that we need to be able to reproduce everything. And so that's why when customers send in, and for anyone listening, the more information you can send in to help us reproduce the issue, the quicker it gets through this first step of the CCs, like just trying to get our arms around it, right? And just figure out, like, what are we working with here? And from there, we kind of have 2 options. Like, okay, this is super high priority. And at that point, we kind of circumvent all of our other processes, right? That's somebody reaches out to me or to Darren or a developer and says, hey, we got a big fire. And then it's just all hands on deck. We drop it. That's very rare these days. That's a good thing. Most of our tickets and our bugs go through a different process, which is, it's important, but might not be so important that we should railroad some of the feature work that's, that we're working on releasing that week. And so we have a team of business analysts. Grace and Mary do most of this work, and they determine like where it ranks up, how it stacks up, when we'll work on it. There's still a very big gray area in there. Sometimes it's, it's one user with, that has a good workaround. It was on a batch that no longer exists. And so it's really hard for us to, put a finger on it. It's not affecting that user anymore. And so that may sit for weeks because it's just pretty low in our backlog. Other stuff is, like, hey, this user has an active batch that's completely broken and it's, needs to get sent out. Then it goes up in priority. Other things are glaringly obvious bugs that, aren't, that they have a workaround, and we can just put them, in the queue with other feature work in that same area. So like the restock report's a decent example of that, where, we know we were going to have to go in there. Nothing is like completely broken. And so we just go and fix all 3 of those bugs once we're in there. And that may be like next week. So Grace and Mary prioritize that. And every 3 weeks we touch base with them and figure out, okay, what's on our plate for the next 3 weeks. That's when tickets basically get handed off to me. And then I look at like my team and say, okay, Phi has bandwidth, really soon. So we're going to give, Phi's wrapping up what they're working on, and, they can work on this next. And so that's where I get involved. And part of that is priority. Part of that is who can fix this, because we have so much code that not everyone knows everything. So I have people that are subject matter experts that, I would rather give them the ticket for that if I can, because it'll just get resolved quicker.
That makes sense. And it's so interesting, even learning about it from my side, from the customer facing side. That's actually really helpful for me, because now it just puts it into perspective a little bit of, we see these users who are having these little tiny glitches and bugs, and it seems like a big deal to them. But then there's all these other things that go on in the back end that we don't know about. And of course, our users don't know about, that you guys are always continually troubleshooting. So it's like a push and pull, right? It seems like there's a lot of that on.
Yeah, that's a big part of what I spend my days on now, is just trying to balance the customer needs with some of our other bigger technical needs, right? So we have old hardware that we need to get off of, and that's, you don't feel that right away, but if we let that kind of like sit out there and decay, then it results in performance issues for the customers. And so, we need to stay ahead of that. And so that's where a lot of this prioritization comes in.
That makes sense. So what does a typical day look like for you then?
It's never the same, especially now that I'm also leading a team. A lot of it ebbs and flows. Some days it's coding. I still code. I still get to work on mostly tickets. I don't have enough for myself. I don't have enough bandwidth usually to take on large features anymore, because it's so chaotic for me. So I typically get, the smaller bottom of the barrel tickets that oftentimes the stuff that's been sitting for a while that someone needs to go do. So I'll either be coding, or a lot of my work is spent managing our software development lifecycle and prioritizing who gets what and when, and roadmap planning and figuring out, the long-term strategy and trying to move our, the needle that way. So we have, we really have two roadmaps. One is what we want to build for our customers, right? What features do we have coming down the pipeline? The other one is what is our technical roadmap, and that is, well, what do we have to fix, or what do we have to get off of? What do we have to upgrade or migrate in the near future? And that's always changing because, some of our partners like Microsoft and these places that we host our solutions, they're continually sunsetting or changing things. And so we have to react to that. Amazon, will sometimes only give us 6 months before they shut off an API or a feature.
Right.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
Right. You know that. And then it's, well, there goes our roadmap. We have to replan all of this work because now Amazon's given us a tight deadline and things are just going to quit working. So a lot of it is managing that and getting the right resources on that, helping people troubleshoot issues. I spent a lot of time, just because I've been here for 7 years, I have a lot of tribal knowledge. And so I spend a lot of time just getting other developers unclogged on things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. I mean, it must be kind of cool in a way that no 2 days are the same. I think that's the same working in software of any kind, even on our customer facing roles. It's just no 2 days are ever alike. So keeps it interesting.
It does. It does, especially if something's breaking. That keeps things very interesting.
Yes, for sure. So what made you decide to go into software development in the first place? It seems like it's a very niche thing, but also a really expanding area for people to go into now.
Yeah, so I was actually a music major in college, and I had been programming probably for, I don't know, 5 years before I got to college, but never anything formal. I went to a very small school in northern Minnesota or high school, and didn't have access to any programming courses or anything. And so it was mostly self-taught, just kind of a hobby. And it turns out it's very hard to make a living in music. So
what?
Yeah. So I took a programming class my sophomore year, and it was kind of history after that. It aligned very well with my my interests, and I turned out I was pretty good at it. I ended up getting an internship at Microsoft, and then it just kind of took me for a ride, and I've done a lot since then. Worked on a lot of different things, and so.
And here you are.
Here I am. Yeah.
That's really cool. So I'm curious, what feature you're the most proud of having worked on over the last 7 years here at InventoryLab? And I know that's probably hard because I'm sure there's so many. So if you have a couple, that's okay too.
Can I answer with two?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so one isn't a feature. One I would say is our development process that I'm most proud of. We have gone from completely reactive, chaotic, to very thoughtful, very automated, scalable development. And that took us a long time to get to, and that's something I'm very proud of. We have 270 different code bases right now, and we're deploying those to 124 different environments on any given day. So that's all automated. And, when I first joined, we were, manually copying files from server to server when we wanted to release new code.
Oh no.
Yeah. And it was just, it was a few of us, and we could handle that because it was relatively small. And now we have code flying and getting deployed every day, unbeknownst to our users oftentimes. And it's all automated. We spend our time coding now and not, managing server deployments and that sort of thing. So that's probably what I'm most proud of is, just moving us from such reactive nature to this very automated, planned nature now. But for a feature, I would have to say the one I'm most proud of is the repricer integrations that we have. That was something where BQool just kind of floated us the idea, and we're sure. And I went and built it, and we integrated with it. And now it's something that a majority of our users use. We have thousands of people benefiting from that every day, and it has quietly sat there running pretty much uninterrupted. I think I can count the number of bugs we've actually fixed in that code on one hand, and it's been sitting and running there for years now. And it's high value. It's not very often that you get something that's frictionless, pretty easy to build, easy to deploy, right, and super high value. So that one, I think that's my favorite.
That's awesome. So for people who are watching who might not even know that we have a repricer integration, can you give us just like a blurb
Mm.
about what it is
Yeah,
or what
that's
it does,
kind
why
of
they want
important
it?
information.
Yeah.
So if you use a repricer on Amazon, we can almost certainly send your buy cost data over to that repricer now. So we integrate with BeCool, Aura,
Seller Snap
Seller Snap.
and Informed.
Informed. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. And so we will take that process of entering your buy costs into their software out of the equation and automate that for you. They actually pull from us, so we don't send it. We just make it available. There's a very secure method that they have, and you have to authorize on our side and on their side, and they can come and ask for that information and take it back into their system. So
that's cool. So if I am a user and I work with a repricer that's not on our partner list, what should I do?
Well, the easiest way to get your stuff repricing automatically is to use one of the other repricers. Short of that, we can add new repricers on our end very easily. So if there is a strong push for, Seller Snap recently did this. They had a bunch of users reach out to us, say, hey, look, we have, all of us want a Seller Snap integration. Can you please help set this up? And we had enough interest that, it was worth it for us. And we went and partnered with Seller Snap and got them integrated. So, the best thing you can do is reach out to our customer champions and let them know that you have another repricer you want us to work with. And, we can, if there's enough interest, we can make that happen.
Awesome. Yes, definitely. Write a support ticket, support@InventoryLab.com if there's a repricer you'd like to see. And myself or one of my colleagues will add it to essentially a log of this particular repricer company that you want. And when it gets to enough traction, then the developer team will take it from there. So cool. I threw you with a curveball for that one. But thank you.
Yeah.
What are some of the features that users or even our customer champions might take for granted now that straight up did not exist 5-7 years ago?
Oh, a lot of them. So if you look at the URL in your web browser, and it doesn't say app.inventorylab.com, that didn't exist years ago. So if it's inventorylab.com or insights or Scout, all of that stuff is stuff that was, has been built fairly recently. Box contents, that was a big one. When you didn't have box contents, that functionality was kind of life-changing for a lot of customers for a long time. The repricer integrations, that was a big one that kind of took off. And then probably the one that has alleviated the most pain, at least for my team, is IL Print. And when we finally pushed out our own print software to integrate with the different printers, that gave us a lot more control. I mean, we were always chasing down issues with printers because you were trying to work with, the Dymo driver or the Rollo driver, and we didn't have any finite control over that. It was painful. And so if you aren't using IL Print, please do, because it's going to make your life a lot easier.
Can confirm. Yeah. Even on the support side, it makes it a lot easier if you can use one of our partnered printers. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I'm curious, what do you find was the biggest challenge going from chaotic startup company to where we are now, just really well managed and streamlined and all that?
Playing catch up while growing. So we still to this day have this long list of things we want to do or improve on our dev side, right? So old services that do stuff in the background that are really hard to work with, or code bases that we want to clean up, and finding time and dev effort to do that while having a constantly changing dev team, right? So we've added new developers, we have added analysts, we've added database specialists, we've added project managers, product managers, and so we're trying to move this massive iceberg of stuff along with us while changing our process. Every time you add a new person or a new team member, it completely changes how you operate as a team. And you kind of have to rethink everything a lot, right? Because someone brings something new to the table. And so dealing with this old stuff while also evolving the team with new ideas, and then, also trying to build, the new features that, are constantly being asked for, and just organizing it, right? It's like corralling a lot of cats.
Yeah.
And all these competing interests and all these things that we want to do. But at the end of the day, we have a pretty small team. So just figuring out where it all lines up has been very challenging. And some days we move faster than others.
Sure. I can see that, though. That makes sense. Just like the tension there between we want to grow, we want to expand, we want to add all this new stuff. We also have to make sure that everything that's existing is working and functioning correctly, and that our processes are in line. And so it's almost like a catch-22.
We have new features that we really want to build, but we know that like certain databases just can't handle that load, right? So we need to get onto new hardware that can allow us to scale, right? Or we have we don't have a good home for something we want to build, but we don't have the time to build the new home. So we end up putting it somewhere that we don't really want to put it, but it allows us to get it out the door. So that's some of that, push and pull that we have to talk through.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So if someone was interested in getting into software development or wanted to do your job one day, where would you recommend they begin?
Well, college has always been the default answer, and I don't know that it holds true anymore. I've hired a number of people who have not gone to college for computer science, and they're exceptional. The code camps that are available nowadays are really good. So they're like a 3-month, 6-month boot camp. You sit down, you code every day, and what they teach you, and in some cases is more valuable than what you learn at a university, is the practical stuff that will get you a job when you leave, right? So yeah, you might not understand database fundamentals real well, or you might not come out being an expert in, perfect architectural design, but you understand how to sling JavaScript code in a meaningful way, and you know how to, deploy your code out into a, automated environment. And those are the kind of skills that I can work with, right? We can, as a manager, I can get you a mentor or bring you up to speed on, architectural decisions. And that's some of the stuff you can only learn from experience anyways. But what I really need to know is that you can hammer out the code that that someone else has kind of defined the requirements for. So those code camps are really valuable, and they have pretty good placement rates. And I would recommend one of those, and they have scholarships available for them. So if you can't swing that, I think they're probably in the thousands of dollars to do. If you can't swing that, there are scholarships out there. So I really recommend reaching out to the organizers of those code camps. There's one in Boise that is good, very good. So, if you can spend a summer in Boise, that would be a great way to get started.
Not a bad place to spend a summer either. It's beautiful up there. Yeah. Thank you for that. Well, I know we're coming to the end of our time, so I figured I'd open it up to Q&A. If we have anyone who's listening who has any random questions for our extra super awesome, amazing guy, we're here to field them. Anything developer related, software related, InventoryLab related. Go ahead and pop it into the Q&A or into the comments, and we'll see it over on our side. Well, this is such a good conversation. I learned a lot, even after I've been here 2 years already. And I just learned a lot, too, from you. So thank you for sharing.
Mentally prepping for this presentation was really interesting. We moved so fast and so much changes on such a daily basis that it was probably the first time I've had a chance to really reflect on all of it since the get-go. So it was a fun exercise for me. So thank you.
I love that. Yeah, no, thank you. That's really cool. And it's fun, too, to be someone who's been around for a little while, but not quite as long as you. And I've seen lots of changes even in the last 2 years. And coming from a place where I never worked in software before, it's kind of mind-boggling to realize just how quick it all moves. And it's one of those, like, the days seem long, but the years go by really, really fast. Yeah, right. Like there are some days where it's just like, oh, this is broken or this is stressful. And then you look back on it and reflect and you're like, oh my gosh, but look at how much we've accomplished in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I remember doing some research on the repricer integrations recently, and I was like, man, we built that back in 2016. It was something crazy like that. Wow. Like, man, I'm getting old.
Not at all. Just getting started. Getting started.
I hope so.
I love that. Well, it doesn't look like there are any questions, so we can either just wrap it up, or if there's anything else you want to share with our users, anything you think they want to know.
Nothing that I can tell you about, but there's some fun stuff coming down the pipeline.
Oh, Okay, little Easter egg there, little breadcrumb.
Yeah.
Get excited. That's awesome. Yeah, I know we often have users write in who want to know an exact timeline for when such and such feature might be released, or when can I expect something like this to be happening? And it's hard on our end because the answer is we don't know. We can give you the best answer, which is our developer team is looking into it and adding it to the roadmap. But hopefully now, after listening to you kind of explain the process, it makes a little more sense as to why we can't give like particular, time frames.
Yeah. And, if you look at mature organizations, Blizzard Activision is a great example. The press is always pushing them for, timelines on their new games, Diablo or whatever it is. And they say when it's ready, right? They never give a timeline because software is just the nature of software is almost impossible to plan long-term around, especially when you have dependencies like we do on Amazon. Amazon throws us curveballs regularly. We shift our entire roadmap, in the course of a week just to accommodate. So unfortunately we can't, but we do have, I can tell you we do have good stuff coming, and I just can't tell you when or what.
When or what, but it is coming, I promise. So stay tuned. I love that. Well, Elliott, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions, feel free to write into us at support@inventorylab.com, and we'd be happy to answer them, or any suggestions, anything you want to see in the future. We can definitely add it to the list of things that the developers are always reviewing. And now you actually saw one in the flesh. So they are there. They do exist.
And please, the request for feedback and suggestions is sincere. We do listen to all of those. Doesn't mean we can act on all of them, but that is super valuable for us as a dev team. That's like gold. So please do send those in if you have suggestions.
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of Inventory Lab Seller Summit, the first ever. It's been awesome so far. And Elliott, have a great day. Thank you so much for being here.
Bye-bye.
Bye.